Good afternoon and welcome to the Daily News Analysis by Civil Service Institute, Pala. Let's look at the top stories of the day. Kerala to seek sterilization of bonnet macaque near forest. At International Space Station, Shukla takes up experiment on skeletal muscle degradation in space. Why is Election Commission of India delisting political parties? Noble wrote, the alchemist of wines is setting fungal biology abyss. Synthetic genome, DNA from scratch. Frozen secrets, how ice can preserve messages, reveal clues. Threat of GPS interference to global air and sea transportation and the solutions. News in detail. Let's start with the first article. Kerala to seek sterilization of bonnet macaque near forest. So Kerala is likely to undertake mass sterilization of bonnet macaque as part of measures to control the population of the widely seen primate species. Kerala Forest Department will shortly approach the Union Environment Ministry seeking permission to carry out sterilization of the species endemic to South India. These species have been creating crop loss associated with a wide variety of crops, including coconuts, banana plantations, etc. The bonnet macaque is the second species for which population control measures are being proposed in the state after wild pigs. Though wild pigs are being culled, there are no plans to cull monkeys. The Forest Department has drawn up a mission called Mission Bonnet Macaque as part of a 10-point program to reduce instances of human-wildlife conflict. The project requires the permission of the Union Ministry since the species is included in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, that is IUCN, has included the monkeys in the vulnerable category considering its declining population. The department plans to implement waste management programs in ecotourism centers where these animals feed on leftover food. Moving on to the next news. At International Space Station, Shukla takes up experiment on skeletal muscle degradation in space. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, who is on board the International Space Station, has commenced research activities at the orbiting laboratory. He has spent time in the life sciences glove box working on the myogenesis experiment. The study aims to uncover the biological pathways behind skeletal muscle degradation in space, a major challenge for astronauts. By identifying these mechanisms, researchers hope to develop targeted therapies that could only protect space travelers, that could not only protect space travelers, but also aid people suffering from muscle degenerative diseases on Earth. The ISRO has shortlisted 7 microgravity experiments which Mr. Shukla would be conducting during his 14-day stay at the International Space Station. ISRO has said that the experience gained through the 7 experiments is expected to nurture a microgravity research center in India, resulting in the induction of advanced microgravity experiments in various disciplines in the Indian space program. ISRO and NASA will also participate in 5 joint science investigations and 2 in-orbit STEM demonstrations, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Axiom Crew has initiated the cerebral hemodynamics study using ultrasound technology. This research explores how blood circulates in the brain under microgravity conditions. The findings could improve our understanding of cardiovascular adaptation in space and inform medical diagnostics and treatments for conditions like stroke and hypertension on Earth. The Axiom 4 mission crew will be conducting 60 studies and activities representing 31 countries. Here, why is the Election Commission delisting political parties? Here in this article, we are going to look at what are the requirements for registering a political party with the Election Commission of India, what are the benefits enjoyed by registered unrecognized political parties, and does the Election Commission have explicit power to deregister a political party? So why is this in news? Here, Election Commission of India has taken steps to delist 345 registered unrecognized political parties in the country that have not contested elections in the last 6 years and whose offices, especially their address, could not be physically located. So the right to form an association is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 19, Clause 1, Clause C of the Constitution to all citizens. And political parties are an association or body of individuals that can be formed by citizens. Section 29A of the Representation of People Act 1951 lays down the requirements for registration of a political party with the Election Commission. Any political party that seeks registration should submit a copy of its memorandum or constitution within 30 days of its formation. Then the Election Commission will review the memorandum to verify that it contains provisions for internal democracy like periodic elections for its office bearers. The EIC, that is the Election Commission, thereafter registers them as a registered, unrecognized political party. So what are the benefits that a registered, unrecognized political party enjoy? First one is that tax exemption for donations received under Section 13A of the Income Tax Act 1961. Second is a common symbol for contesting general elections to the Lok Sabha and state assemblies. And the third one, 20-star campaigners during election campaigns. So these are the three benefits that a registered, unrecognized political party enjoys. First is tax exemption. Second is allotting a common symbol for elections. And third is they can employ 20-star campaigners during election campaigns. Now, registered, unrecognized political parties are required to maintain details of individual donors who have donated above rupees 20,000 in a financial year and submit these details to the Election Commission every year. As per Section 29C of the Representation of People's Act, failure to furnish these details will result in losing income tax exemption. Now, what are the issues with the registered, unrecognized political parties? So, as per the Election Commission notification, there are more than 2,800 registered, unrecognized parties in India as of May 2025. Out of that, only 750 of them contested the 2024 general elections. So, this has given them the nickname letterpad parties. They are just letterpad parties. The Representation of People's Act does not confer explicit powers on the Election Commission to deregister any political party if it fails to contest elections or conduct inter-party elections or lodge requisite returns. Here, the Supreme Court in Indian National Congress versus Institute of Social Welfare and others in 2002 had given the ultimatum that Election Commission of India does not have the power to deregister any political party under the Representation of People's Act. So parties have been delisted after they were found to be non-existent at their address, even after notices from the Election Commission of India. That is, Election Commission of India from time to time publishes the list of delisted and inactive registered unrecognized parties. And when the party fails or is found to be non-existent at their addresses, even after notices from the Election Commission, political parties can be deregistered. Political parties that have not updated the material changes, including the list of office bearers since 2014, have been classified as inactive. These parties are denied the benefit of putting up candidates with a common symbol in an election. Considering the provisions of the Representation of People's Act and Income Tax Act, they would also become ineligible for tax exemptions. So what needs to be done? The present exercise has identified 345 registered unrecognized parties that have not contested any elections since 2019 and could not be physically located anywhere. This is a welcome step that would prevent letterpad parties from misusing the income tax exemptions or committing any other financial fraud. The Law Commission, in its 255th report in 2015, had recommended amendments for deregistration of a political party if it fails to contest elections for 10 consecutive years. The Election Commission, in its Memorandum for Electoral Reforms in 2016, has also suggested amendment to the Representation of People's Act that would empower it to deregister a party. So another serious issue plaguing almost all political parties is the lack of inner party democracy. However, as suggested by the Law Commission in its 170th and 255th report, the Representation of People's Act can be suitably amended to contain specific provisions for ensuring internal democracy in political parties. So I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next news. Here, how a party is recognized as a national party. At present, a party is recognized as a national party if any of the following conditions is fulfilled. So there are registered, unrecognized political parties, and there are national parties and state parties. So here we are looking at the conditions to fulfill for a national party. If it secures 6% of valid votes polled in any 4 or more states at the general election to the Lok Sabha or to the state legislative assembly, 6% of the valid votes, 6% of the total votes polled in any 4 or more states at the general election to the Lok Sabha or to the state legislative assemblies. Idallengil, it wins 4 seats in the Lok Sabha from any state or states. Allengil, if it wins 2% of seats in the Lok Sabha at a general election, Lok Sabhayude മൊത്തത്തിലുള്ള 2% of seats കിട്ടുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, and these candidates are elected from 3 states or more, it is recognized as a national party. ഈ 3 കണ്ടീഷനും ഫുൾഫിൽ ചെയ്തില്ലെങ്കിലും, if a political party is recognized as a state party in 4 states, then also that party can be recognized as a national party. So there are 6 national parties in the country right now. They are Aam Aadmi Party, BSP, BJP, Congress, CPIM, and NPP. That is National Political Party, the first national party from the Northeastern region to be recognized as a national party. The number of recognized parties keeps on changing on the basis of their performance in the general elections. So this is from the Hindu's science part. 𝗗𝗶𝗶𝘆, the alchemist of wines, is setting fungal biology abyss. So in a startling discovery, researchers from 2 most prominent universities have found that botrytis fungi cannot be cloned. In these fungi, no single nucleus contains a complete set of chromosomes. Instead, the chromosome set is distributed across 2 or more nuclei, and any one nucleus contains only a subset. So what is this botrytis fungi? This fungi is called 𝗗𝗶𝗆𝘆 because it infects grapes and penetrates the skin and causes the berries to lose water by evaporation and shrivel up, and this concentrates the sugars and flavors in them. So botrytis and sclerotina are ascomycetes fungi, and the first cell of a baby fungus born following a mating between ascomycetes is called an ascospore. These are produced in a cell called the ascus, which contains 2 sets of chromosomes. So now what the researchers have discovered using molecular probes is that these ascospores bind to individual chromosomes. When the probes were used individually, they lit up exclusively 1 nucleus per ascospore. This meant the 2 nuclei harbored distinct chromosome sets, as we have already said. The findings have spawned many questions. What is the mechanism by which chromosomes are allocated? How is genetic integrity preserved? And what advantage does chromosome distribution confer to botrytis and sclerotina? So we are awaiting answers for the said questions. And this could allow for future discoveries, helping us especially in medicine and understanding genetic diversity. Now, this is about synthetic genome, DNA from scratch. Between 1990 and 2003, more than 2,800 scientists around the world sequenced almost the entire human genome. This was called the Human Genome Project, which cost around $2.7 billion. It was aimed to identify every human gene and make the data freely accessible to accelerate biology and medicine. By 2003, the team had produced the first reference human genome covering 92% of the 3.1 billion bases. The effort led to better genome sequencing technologies, anticipated policy decisions on genomic discrimination, intellectual property rights, and paved the way for genome-wide association studies. So now the researchers in the UK are planning to launch a synthetic human genome project. So in the human genome project, we read the human genome, whereas in the synthetic human genome project, we will attempt to write it. Over the next 5 years, scientists from universities of Oxford and Cambridge will try to build large pieces of human DNA from scratch, developing the necessary knowledge and technologies along the way. For this, 10 million British pound has been granted from the Wellcome Trust. So this provides very enthusiastic news along with potential risk associated with it. It is critical when developing new technology to understand not just issues of potential utility, but also those concerned with safety and risk. The project has already become controversial over the risk of scientists being able to create designer babies, a concept unknowingly close to eugenics. So what is eugenics? Eugenics means the selection of desired heritable characteristics in order to improve future generations. And engineered microbes, designer babies and engineered microbes that might escape into wild and damage fragile ecosystems. So let's wait and watch what happens. Next, this is from the Indian Express's explained section, Frozen Secrets, how ice can preserve messages and reveal clues. So a new study by Chinese, Korean, and Czech scientists point to a novel way of writing and storing messages, creating patterns of air bubbles and sheets of ice. So it is a totally new method for humans to record information. How was the study carried out? Ice itself is something, a mystery. Covering about 1/10 of Earth's surface, ice continues to yield clues about the planet's distant past while pointing to a much warmer future. Ice can preserve ancient viruses. Bubbles form in ice when air becomes trapped during the freezing process. So when air is trapped inside, bubbles form in ice. As water turns from liquid to solid, its molecules arrange into hexagons. Most of the gases are expelled during the phase transition, but some get stuck. So when you open your ice tray and take out ice cubes from your freezer, you will see that the outside might be clear, but the inside of the ice cube is very opaque. So why is this opaqueness? This opaqueness is because a lot of tiny bubbles have been frozen in the ice. So the researchers carried out their experiment by freezing a sheet of water between two acrylic plates. They found that by changing the speed of freezing and the tilt of the plates, they could alternatively produce egg or needle-shaped air pockets in the ice sheet. Those shapes could be rendered into Morse code, which relies on dashes and dots, or computer-like code that uses either 2 or 3 different symbols. A camera captured the sequence of shapes, which was subsequently processed by a computer and translated into English letters and Arabic numerals. Why is this discovery significant? It has got many various applications in the scientific world. It can help devise more accurate models for designing power lines, aeroplanes, and high-speed trains. A clearer grasp of how ice bubbles form could also help scientists better understand the thermal and mechanical properties of bricks made from lunar soil, which could be used to build moon bases. Scientists have been researching the possibility of fashioning bricks from Martian soil for almost a decade. So, if this becomes a reality, it could be trained to recognize patterns in ice bubbles. Artificial intelligence could help study glaciers for clues about past climate patterns or identify potential deposits of natural gas. Now, in the last news, we are looking at GPS interference and the global air and sea transportation risk associated with it and the solutions. So recently, a Delhi-Jammu flight was forced to turn back. Likewise, 2 tankers collided in the entrance of Strait of Hormuz, and a container ship ran aground near the port of Jeddah. So all these 3 mishaps were related to GPS interference. The common cause was GPS interference, which in recent years has emerged as one of the biggest challenges for seafaring vessels and aircraft. So what is GPS interference? GPS interference refers to spoofing or jamming, two types of deliberate cyber attacks on global positioning system. So this actually disrupt or deceive vehicles' navigation system. So GPS jamming is also called GPS intervention, involves a device, that is a jammer, emitting strong radio signals or frequencies or GPS frequencies to overpower weaker signals. This disrupts the functioning of GPS system by rendering receivers unable to determine location or time. So what is GPS spoofing? GPS spoofing involves a device transmitting signals on the same frequencies used by GPS satellites, blocking the GPS receivers from acquiring or maintaining the right satellite signals. Unlike jamming, which disrupts signals entirely, spoofing deceives the receiver into trusting false data. So why is this GPS interference dangerous? GPS interference can disrupt both military and civilian transport operations from afar without physical confrontation. So this can cause mishaps like air traffic control, traffic jams, immobilizing transport systems, etc. For critical infrastructure like air traffic control, port operations, and vessel traffic systems, spoofing can cascade into broader systemic failures. So, why are such incidents common? GPS interference can occur due to various reasons, not all of them malicious. The reasons could also include electromagnetic radiation from nearby devices or adverse atmospheric conditions like ionospheric disturbances like solar activity, solar flares, etc. While interference may or may not be targeted at civilian vessels, those in the vicinity relying on the same GPS infrastructure are vulnerable to such attacks. GPS interference has disrupted maritime navigation in the Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and Eastern Europe, regions where there are ongoing conflicts going on. How do ships and aircraft mitigate risk of GPS interference? Aircraft and ships experiencing GPS spoofing mid-air have to rely on alternative navigation systems. For aircraft, inertial navigation systems are the primary backup. These use gyroscopes and accelerometers to track the aircraft's current position based on its last known location. They can also use celestial navigation and dead reckoning. Modern ships, whereas typically run on autopilot mode, a course is assigned after which a GPS-based system autonomously determines control inputs to stay in course. During suspected spoofing, the ship's crew resorts to manual helm control, steering, and switches to terrestrial navigation, which involves manual position fixing using land-based aids like lighthouse and radars. So this is why we have to adopt multi-constellation global navigation satellite systems. These use navigation systems of multiple countries to counter the digital threat like the United States GPS and the Russia's GLONASS, among others. So diversification is the only way. That is why Indian Space Research Organization developed NAVIC. The indigenous NAVIC is designed to provide precise positioning and timing services across India and up to 1,500 kilometers beyond its borders. It has already been deployed by the military. So during the 1999 Kargil War, India's request for use of American GPS was denied. Likewise, in 2009 and 2012, India's BrahMos missile failed to hit targets in trial operations as the US shut off GPS satellites. So such incidents necessitated the need for an indigenous navigation system like NAVIC. So with this, we come to a conclusion. Thank you. Have a nice day.